This episode is sponsored by Visual Media. Are you an entrepreneur or a small business looking to take your brand to the next level? Then Visual Media is the service for you. Visual Media is a video production company who specializes in creating high-quality visual content for social media, websites, and online courses. Head over to Visual Media on Instagram and drop Resilience in their DM to get started. That's VZUALMEDIA_ to get started. What's up, everyone? This is Resilience in Action with Erin Brown, the #1 podcast for anyone looking to have a greater human experience. This episode contains topics that may be triggering for some people. Viewers' discretion is advised. What's going on, everyone? This is another episode of Resilience in Action with Erin Brown. And today our guests are Kayla and Andy Izard. Kayla and Andy, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for having us. And we love your podcast. We love the work that you're doing and just helping people have a platform to share their stories so that we know, we're not alone in what we're going through.
Yeah, we've been so excited to chat with you. So thank you for making the time.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah. So, we're married for one thing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's almost been 10 years, actually. Oh. Yeah, this year it'll be 10 years, which is just nuts to me.
We got married pretty young. So
we did.
A lot of life in 10 years, I'd say. But
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a son, Sammy, and he's 2. So we're in the middle of the toddler parenting, which is so exciting.
Yeah. He's having a rest right now.
Yeah, he's having a quiet time. Yeah, but basically kind of our mission in life is similar to y'all's. Honestly, we, Andy especially has been through some stuff with his mental health and stuff like that. And I've been through it, as his partner and through entrepreneurship, through stuff like that. Just life is hard sometimes, I think, for all of us. And what we've learned is that the big unlock for us was community and connection and actually having a safe space like this to share what we were going through at the time and get some feedback on it, get some oh, me too, or some solutions, some help. And so we started what we're calling the Raft Project. It's our little baby movement right now, but it's basically just trying to change the way the world does connection, trying to change the way that we talk to each other and the things we expect to hear from each other. So
yeah,
what I miss? Jump in here.
No, I think you got it. Honestly, most of the pain that I've personally felt in life has come from feeling broken and alone and somehow I don't know how you feel about language, but fucked up and just inherently kind of broken in the process. So I just personally over my life and in this movement, I think our goal is to help people hear stories, share those moments with everyone else who's also going through shit. But it's we just don't show it very much. We try and keep it pretty locked down and under wraps, but we're all going through something. And if not, give it 3 months and then we'll be going through something for sure. So I just think the idea we're not alone and we're all so much more than we are different. That's kind of our favorite thing to talk about, and we really want to change that.
I love that. We are really all going through something. It's so funny. This morning, I just rolled over and I read a little bit of a breathing magazine that I have. And I just hopped on Instagram and made a story. And I was just listen, sometimes life throws us anything. And there's a term that, or a saying that people use is people say anything. So I was life just throws us anything and it expects us to, figure it out and navigate it. I was and at the end of the day, I just want to let you know you have it. And then just to turn around, cut my camera off and realize that me and my wife have to lug this really, really long piece of furniture downstairs, stuff it into one of our cars, take it up the road to exchange it because when it got delivered, it was broken. It was a king size bed frame. And and a Hyundai Tucson, right? So like just to, and
Oh my God.
we're
We have
all,
a Tucson too, by the way.
Oh.
So car buddies. But yeah, no, I
what
would
color
not
is yours?
blue.
Which blue? Is it like the electric, like blue?
I think we might have the same car.
I love it. I knew we were supposed to connect on a Jeep.
Oh my God.
That thing is
But
it's a beast.
yeah,
I'm like,
but I still wouldn't want to be lugging furniture back with it.
No.
Like it's not that kind
Pivot.
of beast.
Pivot.
But
No. It was an experience.
oh God.
To say the least. And
Just growing your character.
exactly. And that was like just the beginning of the day. Actually, the night turning into the day. So we were really, it'd have been so easy to allow that to dictate how I maneuver and how I moved this morning.
Yeah.
And was I going to let it bring me down? Was I going to just learn from it and go and just have a good day? So I think that's a big thing that we need to normalize, is that we are in control of the narrative and what we want and what space and what we want to put in that space. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was great fodder for connecting with us today.
Yeah. And making content for yourself is a real thing.
Listen, I roll over.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
A lot of this stuff that I put out, I'm like speaking to myself. So I'm like, I know that someone else needs to hear this.
But at least I did. Somebody
100%.
did.
But like that's the thing, as long as like we're it's totally fine to be making content for yourself, because we're all work in progress, and like none of us are promising perfection, or it's like, oh, you'll never be stressed again. Like shit, no. But like you can manage it and like find community and other people are going through it, and then everything gets like 5 points easier. So
5
like,
points, at least.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Between, it depends. No, okay. So you talked about community and connection, and those are two of my 3 C's. I forget.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I had another one, and just that fast, it left me, and it come back. But those are two of my 3 C's: community, connection, and I think it might have been collaboration or something like that. But let's start with community, because that's a big part of what I do, what you are doing. And let's start there. What is your ideal community?
I mean, I think, well, for the Raft Project, we have 4 values basically, or like action statements. And I think they pretty much sum up the kind of people we're trying to be and the kind of people we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And we are safe. We like do what it takes to do our own work, and so that we can hold space for other people. Second one is we listen and believe. And that is Brene Brown's definition of empathy, basically. It's like,
you're a brownie too.
I am a Brene Brown fan. Listen, I love her. Yes.
He's like a super fan. Like he wins in like Brene Brown trivia with my friends, which is hilarious.
I love it.
He changed my life, but yeah.
So our third one is we include, which is basically like, I think unless you want to have a community that's based around kind of exclusivity, and what we want to do is base it around common values, mindsets, behaviors, not so much like, anything else that we typically
like
divide
status and money and stuff like that, stuff that really doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Men, women, not men, not women. I mean, so we want a place where basically, like, if you can follow the rules and you give a shit about other people, you're invited here. And that's when we work really hard to make it accessible for like people who, don't interact with the world in the same way as we do, whether that's like vision, hearing. So we're trying. Yeah. And then our last one is we are real. And one of our kind of tenets between ourselves is like, we go first. And so no one should be willing or like feel okay opening up if we're like locked up, not okay with our own stuff. Yeah. So we put it out there first, and we are real. And that's the kind of community that we want, at least that we wrote down.
And it's different for everyone, right? Like some people are looking for different communities at different times, or around one particular issue where they just need someone who gets this thing.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Like this is not the exclusive community, but this is something that we want everyone who will like openly accept other people to be a part of, like if they want to. So yeah, the exclusivity, if that's your thing, then we may not be that group, but
good for you.
Exactly.
And that's fine.
Yes, there's plenty of groups out there for you. Yeah,
absolutely. Is that Spider-Man?
Superman.
It was I just saw that side.
I'm like, what is it? I don't know.
It's a bird. It's a plane.
It's a bird.
You're a nerd.
I'm a nerd. I'm such a nerd. I apologize.
I love it. I wish let me see if I can spin my camera. Which way? This way? Yeah. So I don't know if you see, but
you're a nerd. I love it.
Oh my God. Yup.
I have a B and I have an E on the other side, and this whole shelf is full of pops.
That's amazing.
Full shelf full of pops.
I'm like, you gotta keep your camera that way too. I feel like that's a part of you.
It's the fun part. Maybe I'll keep it like this. Like you see all this, but then you see the fun part.
The nerd part. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, I tap into it. And then my bookshelf is color coordinated. I have a little problem.
Do you watch The Home Edit? Is that where you got that?
What?
You watch The Home Edit on Netflix? Is that where you got the color?
I've always color coordinated everything. I can remember when me and my wife first got together, we were sitting in our apartment and I was sitting on the floor because we didn't have furniture at the time. And
of course, no one does.
We had like the 196 pack of crayons.
Yep.
And I sat for hours and just put everything in color coordinated order.
I love that.
My closet is color coordinated. Her side looks very much not color coordinated.
Neither one of us, I guess. You would be very irritated by our closets.
It's so true. Very irritated.
Oh. So I think it's part of just my personality. I love organization, and I do watch The Home Edit. They take organization to the next level, and I'm here for it.
I love watching it. I'd never be able to do it, but I love watching it.
I love knowing this about you too. Like it just makes me like you so much more. Just already, I'm like, I like your personality, and you're sweet and kind, and I'm like, all of this is fun. Like, don't hide that. Like keep
let it out, right? Okay. I love it. This conversation is so therapeutic. Okay. Yes. So we have your community and the level and your morals and what you embrace and all that good stuff. Now let's talk about connection. Let's go there. What does connection mean to you? Like elaborate, say more about it and what it has to do with the Raft Project.
I love your spectrum on this one. You came up with that. You should take it away.
Yeah, we were writing our book and we were like, what is connection? Because we kept using the word in 28 chapters, kept saying connection. And then I finally started writing the intro chapter and I was like, we gotta like define this. And I don't know how. But
everyone has some different opinion on it.
I know it's kind of an amorphous term, and I'm sure there's some academic literature on it. But for us, we call ourselves like blue collar emotional workers. Like we are not academics. We're not intellectuals. We want to know, like on a daily basis, how do we do this? That's what we want to know. And so for me, I think of connection on the continuum with rejection. So connections on one end, rejections on the other end. One says, I want to get closer to you, like something's happened and I want to get closer. And the other one says, I'm moving away. No, thank you. And so for me, like if I kind of put my hand up here for Andy to grab, that's a bid for connection. And he can either take it, which would be connection, or he could like put his hand in his pocket, which would feel like rejection. Mm-hmm. And so
we all feel that.
Yeah, it's like if I smile at you and you smile back, that's connection. We just got closer. If you look away, that feels like rejection because I put myself out there and it's not being. Does that make sense? That's
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
yeah.
And it's a level of vulnerability. Going back to Brene Brown.
100%.
Of vulnerability and putting yourself out there, being willing to put yourself out there, knowing that there's a possibility that you're going to get rejected.
I don't want to over Brene your audience, but like for anyone who hasn't heard of Brene Brown, like
do it.
just YouTube it. But like one of the things she said that like really did fuck with me is like basically you can only love as much as your capacity to be hurt. So it's like for those of us who like, okay, then I'm not getting hurt. It's like, okay, well, you got a splinter of love and you can work within this splinter of like openness and joy, but like you can't get further unless you can also open up more. That's
it's such a conundrum, something that it's hard because we don't want to get hurt. So I think I was watching Atlas of the Heart on HBO, and she talked about that rejection and how that closes us off, and it builds that a wall instead of building a bridge.
Yeah, that's solid. So good. I love that.
I take it you've also had some personal experience growing your growing your margins.
That face.
Like we both were pretty people pleasers, like kind of in the giver. I'd say like that giver role, right? Mm-hmm. And like that has been a decade long process of both of us trying to work out of that.
Yeah.
And like
be vulnerable, like go there. Like,
yeah. Because I mean, it doesn't seem like it's worth it initially, right? No. When you're living armored up and like pretty safe, you're like,
why would I step out of this?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but there are perks to it. But yeah, I'm just seeing your face. I'm like, I want to hear your story.
Is there a story there?
I mean, do you have time? There's a million bajillion stories. Which is what led me to Resilience in Action, which is what led me to Value Method, the fight the flight, and really led me to taking this path of empowerment and really, really uplifting. I wanted to be the person that I wish I had when I was struggling. When I was going through my really, really dark times when I no longer wanted to be on this earth. I wanted to show up for other people who may be in a similar situation and just be a lighthouse.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything big, it doesn't have to be, this grand gesture, just knowing that I'm a lighthouse and your boat, you may be feeling like you're drifting, but you have the power to take control of which way you sail and just sail towards the lighthouse. And that's what EB speaks. That's what Erin Brown, that's what I am, just a lighthouse for people who are struggling, who feel alone, who feel rejected, unwanted, unloved, and just to know that as long as I'm alive and I'm doing the work to that, even when I'm gone, my legacy will live on and you will never, ever, ever be alone.
I love that.
Yeah. There's stories of trauma, childhood sexual abuse. My birth mother decided to do drugs and was like, meh. So my grandparents raised me, and just being a lesbian and figuring out what that was and why I felt so different from such a young age. Mm-hmm. And then being Black, like there's so many layers that it is life got really exhausting. So I had to take a step back and figure out who I was and what space I wanted to take up in this world. And once I did that, I was able to, my motto has always been, leave this world better than you found it, starting with yourself. So once I put in the work inward, I am now able to share it with other people so they can know that, yeah, life may be super shitty right now, but there's always hope. And that's what I wanted to drive home with everything that I do.
Can I
Love that.
rebound off of that one?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what you said before, like start with yourself. Like hearing the first kind of like part of that story there, I was like, we've had this conversation hundreds of times, right? Like I came from a very different background. Like honestly, I mean I was a little daunted when I was looking back over some of your other guests, because I'm like, I am not the trauma poster child. I'm like, I came from a 2-parent home where I always felt loved, like upper middle class, white male. I mean, like, I have had so much that was like made
in your favor
for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like my parents paid for my college. Like, I mean, but through that time, as a young kid, I felt very much broken, like I was the bad one and like I could help other people, but I was beyond help. Like like my thing over and over, I'm like, I just want to help people. I just want to help people. And I felt like I could give out and tell people they weren't broken. They were loved. They were blank, blank, blank. But as soon as the conversation was over, I felt like there was nothing good that would come from my life either, except maybe a meaningful death, right? So yeah, just learning that is actually like, until you do your own work, people can't receive what you don't have. I mean, we've talked about this so many times where it's like, if I can't believe it for myself, like there's a wall when I'm trying to tell someone else something that I can't believe. Like,
or as parents, as parents, kids absorb what you are, not what you say,
what you believe.
And other people are the same way. I mean, it's like people absorb who we are and the work that we've done and what's happening in our inner world, not the words that are coming out of our mouth. And that's terrifying.
Horrifying.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you know this, right? But I want to let you know that you said a meaningful death, but I want you to know that you were able to have all those conversations. So that is your superpower, that you're able to look inward, understand that there are some things that we're always going to be working on. We're ever growing, we're ever becoming, ever being. But knowing that's honestly what keeps me alive to this day, is showing up, knowing that. Perfect example. I was at my 9-to-5 and one of my coworkers looked at me and was like, Erin, like, how do you keep it together? Because him and I had conversations about mental health and suicide and all that not so glamorous stuff. And I said, I have so many people watching me now. And I did that on purpose, right? I purposely put myself in that position, because if I ever think that I am no longer needed in this world and I need to take myself out, that gives them permission to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take myself out too. And I'm not owning that. So that's just a little strategy that helps me navigate it, because I've attempted suicide a few times. And I feel like maybe those thoughts, depending on what's going on, the situations, the life experiences, those thoughts sometimes never go away. Super, super transparent moment.
Yeah.
So we just moved. We're in a financial situation, right? That transition. And me and my wife, we are jokesters. We kid all the time, to the point where people will be like, are they fighting? Like, no, we're just reckless with each other. But it's all love. And she said something yesterday. And she said, I did something. And she was like, I hope you slip and die. Now, now I'm giggling, right? It's a little uncomfortable, right? To let people in, right? And now any other time I laugh because that's literally how the people around us know that we joke like that. And maybe it works for us, right?
Yeah.
But in that moment, I was knowing that we're in this financial bind and I may not, I'm not in a position to help as much as I feel like I should be helping. Right. Yeah. And I had a moment and we had to talk about it because she's like, we joke like this all the time, babe. What is going on? And I said, I have to have a moment of transparency with you that this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. Now, our brains tend to set us up and really, really dictate the narrative that goes on in our minds. Mm-hmm. And we have to build up that resilience, that resistance to recognize it and then do what you need to do to make the steps to adjust and change that narrative.
Yeah. And I love that you were like, it sounds like one of your first moves was to like pull her aside and just be like, hey, you know, this is
reach out.
Yeah, this is where I'm at, and just let her know and stuff like that. And I think, I mean, I love this conversation that we're able to have because I feel like the minute you say suicide, people go,
it's so taboo. Still, it's so taboo, but
so many people go through it. I mean, so many people. And
and like you're saying, go ahead.
No, I want you to open up. I see you put your head down and tell me what you're thinking.
I have some very visual cues. Like my hands are always in my hair. But yeah, like it is taboo to talk about suicide in the past, and it's like triply taboo to talk about suicide present.
Yeah.
And like we were in therapy, and like my therapist calls it passively suicidal, and I'm like, I have been actively suicidal, but I've been passively suicidal for a long time, until 2019 was when we were talking about having a kiddo, and we basically had that conversation of like, I mean, Kayla's basically said like, if this is still on the table, I'm not going to have a kid. And I weighed the options and decided like, okay, I can manage this amount of pain indefinitely, I think, and I will take it off the table. So that was our like burn the ships conversation.
Yeah.
So,
but like you said, like the feelings
don't go away.
No,
of course
not a thing.
So it's like, even after that, like there's been so many times when, you know, I had a major kind of sickness issue coming up and I'm like, maybe it's just my time, right? You know, that feeling of like, I wouldn't mind if tomorrow, like if I did nothing wrong, but tomorrow, like it's all over. I just
don't wake up. Yeah.
Right. And that is sad to talk about, but that is, I think, I don't know, I don't have a stat on that, but I mean, many of my friends are in a similar position. And I think many of the people that we interact with on a daily basis do not really want to wake up tomorrow, ideally, but we might, but wouldn't be so bad if we didn't. Yeah. But I'm like, we don't talk about it. No one talks about that.
Hey. Did you know I wrote a book? It's called The Value Method, 5 Steps to Unlocking Your Greatest Potential. And in it, I share just that. 5 wildly easy, actionable steps that will set you up to have a greater human experience daily. I've included interactive worksheets and small assignments at the end of each chapter. You're literally creating a living blueprint of your best life. Be sure to check out the show notes for the link to purchase your copy and a copy for a friend.
And it should be more. We should talk about it more. I feel like there's the stigma, and then religion plays a part into it. And there's just so much that I'd rather just harbor it and deal with it on my own than I don't want to lean in. Mm-hmm. Because if I lean in, people are going to lean away. Mm-hmm. And that's the narrative, and that's the story that society has told us. But from my experience, when you lean in, people lean in closer.
Yeah.
It's that invitation. Like sometimes. It's when someone reaches their hand out, like we as people genuinely would like to go like grab that hand unless there's a reason not to, right? Like,
yeah, it's a human need. I mean, we're mammals, we're pack animals, we're like at our core, we're very tribal. And I think our very westernized society is like put us all in these little boxes we call houses, and then like don't talk to each other. But that really goes against our instinct. It goes against the way our brains are created, evolved, whatever your belief is. And we're literally killing ourselves because we're all in our little bubbles and we think it's just us. And it's like the messaging is so pervasive. Like you said, there's some very prominent voices and has been for centuries that tell us, you don't need each other. You just, you're enough for you.
Yeah.
You're enough for you. You should just love yourself more. I'm like,
or you stay around those like-minded individuals. Like those people who think exactly like you.
Yeah.
And you don't need to understand anybody else's point of view, their perspective.
Yeah.
And that is so detrimental to the flourishing of society in a natural, realistic, nurturing way.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
absolutely.
I hope my analogy is right. I'm not much of a plant guy. I kill plants like crazy. But like when you're pollinating plants, like when a bee pollinates plants, it doesn't pollinate the same 5 plants, right? Like you need everything in that little bee's zone
flying
to like, like we can't survive if we only like share with 5 people. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
absolutely. I believe that. I know Glennon Doyle has a podcast called We Can Do Hard Things. I love it, right? I believe that we can do hard things, but I also believe that we are not meant to do hard things alone.
Thank you. I was like, she's going to do it. She's going to do it.
We are not meant to do hard things alone. And what society has told us is that we have to save ourselves. Don't be vulnerable. Don't show emotion. Or if you show emotion, it's got to be anger. It's got to be pissed off. Don't be happy. Don't celebrate. And that that narrative is just super shitty.
It's so dangerous.
It's not accurate either.
No,
that's the other thing. Like it's not accurate. And if you are talking with someone else in your exact identical situation, you would tell your friends something different, right? You're like, I don't actually think this about you.
Yeah.
Me, on the other hand, like no one else ever.
You shut up. I'm really glad you told me. Now I'm gonna go back to my house and not.
Right. Like we go through these struggles and like we feel badly, and except for some reason we think that it's wrong to feel badly, or like we're the only ones who do. But like when we're having this conversation, it's like, okay, maybe life is not that happy right now. Like legitimately, that makes sense. Like,
and it's absolutely okay for life not to be happy right now.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
it is.
Social media is a highlight reel.
Yes,
life sucks sometimes.
Yeah,
embrace it.
And like when you can acknowledge, like for me in 2019, when I'm like, okay, I will not kill myself. Then I started to get a little uncomfortable over the next few months because I'm like, well, this kind of sucks. And if I'm going to be here, I'm going to change it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, acknowledging like, I am not happy with things the way they are. This is not fun. My day-to-day is not fun. I don't like it. Like there are some ways to improve that. And it's like, you could just take your hand off of the sandpaper for a little like that. Like you could learn to deal with the sandpaper just constantly scratching. It's like, or if there's a way to like, maybe like change things to where it actually is happier.
Yeah, it's like what Tony Robbins says, you either change your circumstances or change what you think about it.
Yeah, your mindset or your state, change your state. I'm like, sometimes you do need to change your state.
Sometimes I had a good manager who once said, like, when it comes to people, change your people or change your people. And I think that translates to...
That's really good.
Change your people.
Really good.
And I think that translates to people, to situations, to experiences. Like, change it. And if you can't change it, change it. And it sounds like you're talking in circles, but I think we get exactly what is being said, right?
Yeah.
And just bouncing back, I love your dark humor. Like, I'm like, dark humor is the best because it lets us talk about things that we normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right? Where she's like, how are you feeling? You're like, pretty good, right? Versus like, like I could really use your life insurance right now. You'd be like, yeah, but also that did make me feel a little sort of way. But like, no, I don't know. We were talking about this the other day when it's like when you're talking with people who are not in a good place, I think dark humor is actually like the best. Like when you're talking with someone who's like kind of like, yeah, oh no, my life is fucked right now. Like dark humor is really fun because it lets you like connect with someone in a way that you wouldn't normally be able to.
Yeah.
But like we were talking about, like with the people who aren't in a bad place, who love people who are, that may be where like the dark humor becomes more painful than cathartic. But I'm like
if you found your family member, you know, after they had done something and then someone was joking about it, that would be kind of hard. But the people who are going through it, I think it's not hard at all.
Yeah.
It's better.
It makes it's I like live in a space of dark humor, believe it or not. Like I thrive there. I like to laugh at really, really inappropriate things. And
go ahead.
No, that's just where I am. And I think that's where I've always been. And I'm owning it. That's where I'll always be, is I'm going to laugh. I'm going to feel my emotions. And obviously emotional awareness is a thing.
Sure.
And being very emotional intelligent about, and reading a room.
Yeah.
But I'm going to always turn to humor, because that's one of my defense mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a very adaptive defense mechanism.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to like watch yourself on count up how many times you like avoided your emotions today with humor.
You're like, oh, I didn't deal with anything today. I just made a joke about it. And it went on like nothing was wrong. Literally dying inside. Like,
yes.
Yep. And it's not just you, and it's not just me, and it's not just the funny guys at the office. Like, I love that. Like my favorite shows are The Office and This Is Us. Like two very different styles.
But I'm like, spectrums. Holy crap.
Oh, totally. But like, I love them both so much. They're my favorite. But like, some open the doors to conversation. Others just make me like bawl my freaking eyes out. But This Is Us. That was Anyways, that's another detour that we could go down. But
I love it. I love it. What inspires you to?
That's a great question. I think for me, trying to think about how to say this without being overly religious. I grew up pretty evangelical.
Gotcha.
And so I think for me, I've always cared about, maybe I'll just, you know what, we're going there.
Just say, I want, at the end of the day, authenticity is the key.
So, I mean, I think about like Eden and how that was, and in that belief system, how heaven will be. And like, my heart has always been to get us as close as we possibly can get to that kind of utopia, to that oasis. Like, I care about people being hurt. I care about the environment being hurt. I care about animals being hurt. Like, I want everyone to thrive. I want everyone to like be their best self, their most authentic self. I want everyone to feel safe and have an abundant, like more than enough for them. Like, I don't want there to be any lack. So that's, I don't know, that's like a really left field, but that's me.
That's what inspires you. No, you inspire.
That's 100% accurate.
It is. I was gonna say this without saying it, so I'm just gonna say it.
Just do it. Just do it. Just say it.
I think so many times, like some people could say the same thing, and it could be just wrapped in like hate and bitterness. Like for you, it is not. Like
I just want everyone to be okay. Like I want everyone to be well and happy. Yeah. Okay. Your turn.
We're kind of like yin and yang here because like she's been pretty happy.
Bubbles. Yeah.
Genuinely.
Genuinely.
Like you're genuinely quite a happy person.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's more like my life kind of consistent things. Like I just want to help people. Like I don't want people to feel the way that I have felt. So I try and go first and help them not feel alone or broken. But like it actually, I feel like you said inspired. And I was like chewing on that because I'm like, that's kind of a run from versus a run to goal, right?
Mhm.
But like we with our kid, like I love our boy, and like my like actual inspiration I think is for people to feel loved as like genuinely lovable as who they are, right?
Mm.
Like I
Like Samuel.
like Sammy.
Yeah.
Like he is kind, he's sweet, he's caring, he started innocent, right? Like, and he does shit. Of course he does. But he's a toddler. He's trying to figure out what gravity is and what boundaries are and what will and won't work. And like, it pisses me off, but he's not being malicious about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think I would love to like, for myself, for him, for others, just to genuinely feel loved for being who they are without the many layers of bullshit that we put on that.
Without expectations.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Mr. Rogers, right? I mean, I honestly, I didn't watch Mr. Rogers as a kid. We kind of crapped on it, but like, oh, here it is.
I love it.
That makes me so happy. I didn't know that existed. Like,
That's so
amazing.
sweet.
You said you want animals to be happy and be well as well.
Hey!
Yes, those are like our people. We're like, I have so much respect for them because I think sometimes when people reach celebrity status, like people go digging on them and then like stuff comes out and they weren't the person that they portrayed. And like those two guys are like, I've not heard any like scandal about them yet. And I'm like, you guys lived the life that you said you lived and you cared as much as you said you care. And like, they
shared yourself and we fell in love with you, right?
Yep.
Like,
and I'm waiting to grab one of Bob Ross.
Yes.
I was wondering if he was on there.
I don't have one yet, but it's coming.
That's awesome. I love that so much. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day.
Could you be mine? I love it. I enjoy and I admire them too so much. Because I feel like if there were something, we would know about it. And
that's what I think too.
And today, like cancel culture, I don't know how you two feel about cancel culture. I was really like for it at one point, and then I stopped and I thought, because that really gives no one grace and space to grow.
Yeah.
We don't. Go ahead. No, you go.
Interrupting you. I have
you're fine. I want you to talk. You tell me what you think.
Like, I think, are you familiar with Bo Burnham at all? The comedian / silly songwriter? I don't know.
It does not ring a bell. There may be something that I know, and I just don't know that's who it was.
I'm sure that is the case. He's on TikTok quite a bit. His sounds are. So I think that there is a big difference in cancel culture between when someone acknowledges that what they did was fucked up.
Yes.
And like, so he started comedy young, I don't know, 16, something like that. And like, and he crossed some lines.
He said some stuff.
Crossed.
Yeah.
And like to hear him talk about it is fascinating because he's like, oh, like 100%, like it was terrible. I didn't know. I went for it. I missed the mark. I've learned blah 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 blah. Like I would never say it again. Like, and like and he's still doing comedy, but like I have a lot of respect for that, where it's like, okay, this is what I believe in. I have so like grew up. I grew up.
Your face.
I'll just tell my story. I grew up very religious and judgmental, and I was a huge dick internally towards people who were not like me.
Yeah.
And if you go back on my every so often, Facebook will pull up like a 10-year ago memory. I'm like, oh God. But and if someone's like, did you not say? I'd be like, I 100% did. I have learned and I'm still learning and I fucked up and I'm really sorry. Yeah. So I'm like, I think there's a big difference between that and like, everyone makes mistakes. Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now let's boot.
Right. I think I'm for cancel culture when it means accountability.
When it means accountability. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot of people go, oh, it's cancel. I'm like, listen, if they did that, they should go to jail. That's because that's a crime. That's how we've set up society. If you're a teacher and you're molesting your students, it's not cancel culture for us to boot you from being a teacher and send you to jail.
Absolutely.
But I also don't agree with like the mob mentality of like, I think there's a difference between, the things that you did maybe disqualifying you from certain jobs versus like, you're just a shit human being. We don't care about you anymore. We don't care about your problems. And we don't think that there could be any like hope for you. Yeah. Right. There's a difference.
Huge difference. Yeah. I believe that at a certain point we should give grace. And I also think that as a human being, right? You know what you did back in the day, right? I know. I've said some shit.
I know. Oh God. Or so uneducated. Just so uneducated.
It was just very much, one way I used to think. And I won't even say it was like radical, but I used to think a specific way. And if anybody were to ask me about it, I'd absolutely like, yeah, so this is what I used to think, blah, blah, blah. But here is everything that I unlearned, and then here's everything that I've learned because we can uproot the seeds, but if we don't replace them with something, that seed will probably sprout right back up.
Right.
Because it needs something to cultivate. Mm-hmm. So you need to what did you unlearn? What did you relearn? And how has that process made you a better person?
Oh boy.
I think it's important too to like, at least for me, like embracing uncertainty has been a huge breath of fresh air where it's like I look back and I see how wrong I was over the last, let's just say 10 years. And I'm like 100%, I'm going to be equally wrong about things that I believe firmly now, 10 years from now, and 10 years from then, 10 years from then, and science over 50 years is going to change. And I'm like, when we hold on to something is I understand the one right way that it is, and everyone who disagrees with me is wrong. I'm like, man, we are setting ourselves up for like a smackdown.
Yep.
But
yeah,
I believe there's more than one way to do anything, right? There's more than one way to be. Right. And for us to say that, no, you've got to be this way, you've got to be this way, you've got to be this way, like, unless it's like racism or obviously something like that, like, no, racism is wrong across the board. There's no like, well, maybe a little dark humor. Well, maybe
racism,
racism light.
Spoken like a true white male. I'm sorry.
You're racism light.
Yeah.
Oh, dear Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So there's some things that just aren't. They're non-negotiables, right? But I think there's room for others. That's not like impeding on somebody's like ability to live and be free in America, which is what we are all here to be, right?
Hey. If you're enjoying this content, do not forget to rate and review. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, be sure to rate and review. It helps us reach more people in more ways. Now, let's get back to some resilience.
Yeah, when it comes to impeding on someone's rights, then that's a whole nother conversation, because that's some non-negotiable stuff right there. But shit, I don't even know where the hell I was going. We started laughing about racism.
You pulled it back. You're like, and we've got to get
driving to Tucson, right back.
Driving at Tucson, right on back around. It's just super important to find the space and to hold space for others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. Oh, it's good.
I know the Brenéism, but like it's hard to hate people up close.
Yeah.
Right? Like that blew my mind, where it's like you have a persona, an image of like what you've been told to fear, what you've been told is evil, what you've been told is like destroying civilization as we know it, right? And then you get with those people and you're like,
wait a minute,
you're not
really
crazy.
nice.
Yeah, you're like, you're really nice. And yeah, like growing up, I remember thinking that like, I remember thinking everyone in a certain political party just wanted to murder babies. And I'm just like, actually, none of them that I've ever met have been out talking about how great it is to murder babies. I'm like, what do you know? They actually care about babies.
Yeah.
Huh.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah, that's like,
didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Well,
I know. She asked like what your journey was.
Oh, did you ask?
Well,
I'm sorry. I
know.
thought that was a
It sounded like a
hypothetical
question. But you just got out and you met people, you read things and
Would you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I genuinely missed it.
Wish I could. I don't know. We got talking about some really good shit, and
I think she was just saying like what was your journey to becoming like the person that you are, because you had said like I've had some things to learn and some ways to grow, and I mean like as his wife, watching him go through that, like
you're like, I can tell you,
just made you coming in clutch.
Well, we were talking about those 5 people, right? Like just kind of pollinating and like meeting people outside of those 5 people and just hearing their life stories and things like your podcast. I mean, we were both very sheltered, and like just like hearing what people go through as kind of a normal part of their lives, like we didn't understand shit, and we still don't, and we're just learning. But
both grew up painfully sheltered, but truly, I just remember like some of the first times where I'm like, I'm trying.
If you're like stumbling because
I'm trying to
decide don't want to like say something, I want you to show up authentically as you are. My audience knows that I will always stand by authenticity. So if that's what I want you to.
Smart. You're very smart, perceptive, and I love it. So
here we go.
Can I just preface by saying I'm sorry?
And I'm here for it. We're here for it because this is the space where I have an Instagram, and it's called Courageous Conversations. And I feel like what you're about to say is a courageous conversation opener.
I hope so. Like I didn't realize that I was racist against Black people, and I'm sorry because I already love you. But like I remember I think it was you was saying like, you might be a little bit racist. And
I don't think I was that nice, but go ahead.
Something like that. And I just remember thinking like, no. And then I remember we were walking somewhere around downtown Tempe, and I passed like 2 white guys, college age, and I just didn't really give a second thought. And I drove past 2 Black guys, and I like tensed up, and they passed me, and I let my guard down, and I was like, oh fuck.
Like, she might be right. She might be onto something.
over the course of 20 seconds, I'm like, oh,
But I
oh
think
God.
To your point though, like it is honestly, I had no idea how prevalent racist messaging and ideation is until 2020 and all the stuff that went down, in June of 2020. And I learned so much that year that I had never known, had never heard before.
Same.
Yeah.
And so it's like I think a lot of people are racist and don't know it because you just
don't know because
you don't know, and there's not enough Black voices like yourself who are well, not that it's your job to educate anyone, but like
pause really quick because shout out to you for saying that. Listen, real recognize real, and that's remember I was telling you about like the way I used to think, and that was one of them, and I still believe that, but I have a little more grace now. But
that's fair.
I see you.
I'm sure it's exhausting. I mean, I can't imagine.
That was a very, very exhausting time.
I can't imagine.
And there was so much going on. And then you have everything was happening with the buildings being burned and da-da-da. And my wife is white. At that time, we
technical difficulties.
Oh, there.
Oh no! Are we back? Okay. Are we back?
You're back.
Okay.
Repeat it. Go ahead.
What's the last thing you heard?
The buildings.
Oh, where are we going? We keep doing it. Come on, internet. I need you to get it together.
Burning buildings where we lost. And everything else that was going on that year in the buildings.
Yeah. The buildings. Gotcha. Yes. So my wife is white. And at that time, we lived with her mother in West Virginia.
Fun.
That was an eye-opening experience for everyone.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Everyone. Her mom was really, really, she was hurt by what happened, but I think she was equally hurt by like people like rioting and like burning the building like Target and stuff. And having to have the conversation where this is the reaction, but it's a reaction to what?
Yeah.
It was hard to have, and it was so necessary that where I don't condone what's happening, I understand it because this is where it's rooted from. And until we can acknowledge and address what it's rooted from, that cycle is going to continue.
Yeah. Well, and I got really frustrated with my people, if you want to call it that, like something. I'm like, God,
your camp? How about your camp?
My camp, the people that look like me, the Mayo Brigade, whatever you want to call them, like something terrible happens, and I see nothing, no outrage, nothing, and then reaction to the terrible thing happens, and all of a sudden everybody's got something to say, and I'm like, guys, no, bad. Please stop. Like it is, and I can't imagine how frustrating. I mean, that was like frustrating for me as just having empathy for the situation, but like actually going through it. And I want to apologize, and I'm not going to because that's annoying too, but there's some healing that needs to happen, and that's what I will say.
Yeah. I see you, and I appreciate you.
Change first, then healing. Okay.
Yes.
That was truly like I hate to say like brand new information, but like 2020 year was like the start of brand new information for us, where I'm like, I wanted to be a cop growing up or military or something, and I was very, very, very pro police, and in other ways I still am, but like
absolutely
that challenged so much for me that I had just taken as an inherent truth. Like I've never had a problem with cops like me. I liked cops. Like I always got like the pass, like the good old boy pass. And it wasn't until I started talking to people and hearing people, I'm like, my experience, like something that I have deemed unquestionably true, like this is all I've ever experienced. This is my worldview, right? I'm like, people are outside of here sharing incredibly different experiences that I'm like, after hearing enough of that, and like, it just, you hit that
Challenge
moment
yourself.
where you're like, I don't think my reality is reality. Like, I think this is my experience.
It's your reality.
Right.
Is not.
It's your reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're all living in our own type of reality, our own set of standards and all that good stuff. But being able to look outside and really, really bring in that perspective. I think perspective is such a missed opportunity. And I just feel like if we have more conversations like this will open us up to having more empathy for one another, to challenge what you think you knew, and then be willing to unlearn that thing and learn something new.
Well, listen and believe. I think that's
2020.
Listen and believe.
That believe part.
That believe part. It's I can tell you my life experience.
Yeah.
But you can always challenge that because you have never experienced it.
Doesn't fit. That wouldn't happen. Exactly.
Right.
And realizing that is off by so much, it opens us up to new connection and new community, and see how we just tied that right back to the beginning of this episode.
That was beautiful.
It was so good.
Really.
And that's, one of the reasons I think we're not afraid to kind of share what we thought and who we were, because like there are people who feel that same way now. And I hope that they hear this and like just challenge a little bit, just like read something you don't normally read, listen to somebody you don't normally listen to. Like,
Oprah and Bruce Perry wrote a book. What Happened to You? Have you read it?
I have that on my Audible. Yes.
Oh, nice.
I just finished it on Libby a couple of months ago. I'm like, but there's a section towards the end, and I'm gonna miss her terms, so forgive me, Oprah. But basically there's a difference between forgive me as I stumble through it. There's a difference between like racism in the sense that like I believe you are less than I am, versus the like inherent kind of, like you said, like our reality, like kind of the things in our reality where it's like you have racist tendencies, maybe is like a better way to say it, where it's like she said it so well, and I'm like, I'm fucking this up here.
Go read her book.
It's a good book. But when people are responding so negatively, where it's like, I'm not a racist, it's like, you can have racial biases without being a motherfucking racist, right? So it's like, if we can talk about our racial biases, that without like, I guess I should say like without jumping right away, like, being a terrible person, right? Like that doesn't help anyone. When you click into that shame and you're like, you're shut down, you're not learning, you're not listening, you're not growing. But it's like, we can't have the conversations because people like, I'm not. And it's like, okay, are there any things like maybe misconceptions that like maybe you just didn't know because you never met many people that weren't your family, or like we can have those conversations. And again, when I find it, I'm gonna text you or email you, be like, this is the word, and I missed it. But the book is really good and it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 110%. I had a situation. I was at work the other day, and a lady came up to me, and I was working ironically with the bananas, and she goes, people have no sense of humor nowadays. I'm like, what? Well, why do you say that? She goes, well, there was a guy over there who had a cart full of the front of his thing. He had a lot of bananas. And I said, what do you got? A bunch of monkeys at home? And he didn't find it funny. I said, ma'am, I'm gonna ask you. I said, I have one question for you.
Oh man.
I said, I have one question for you. I said, what color was that man?
Oh God.
What color was that man?
Did she just
And she
receive?
just took a deep ass breath, as she should have. And I don't blame her, because maybe it never clicked. Maybe she just did not know.
Sure.
You got to give people grace sometimes. And in that moment, I needed to give grace. And I said, that could have been taken very, very wrongly. Do you understand why? So that was such a teachable moment. And then she was an older lady as well. So maybe it wasn't really a teachable moment. Maybe she knew exactly what she was doing. I don't know. But I choose to try to see the good in people and give them that grace. That doesn't always happen, because sometimes people just don't earn that. But, it just goes back to the conversation, like, just people not knowing.
Yeah.
And then not willing to do the work. You two have shown that you're willing to do the work and do the inner work, the heart work. It's hard work, and then there's heart work. And that heart work is where it's nasty, it's messy, it's dirty. You're going to want to quit and cry and give up. But once you get that nasty to gook out, and you start to really see that heartbeat, you can recognize another heartbeat.
Yeah. I appreciate your conversation. You ask great questions, and you're good at this.
Oh, thank you so much. I know, look, we didn't went over an hour.
I know, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
Over an hour.
This has been so happy.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to have this conversation in this moment today. Because who knows what, like I said, there's no script, so I don't know what we're going to talk about. We just talk. And as the conversation goes, and then I'll steer it this way, steer it that way. So this conversation may have looked different if we had talked another time. So I'm really, really glad that we got the space to talk in this moment. How can we find you on social media, and how can we support you?
Oh, you're so sweet to ask. That's really kind. We are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok as at the Raft Project. Super easy. And then we do have our book is coming out next week on the 4th. And so if you're a reader, I'm not really a reader, but if you're a reader, maybe check it out, see if it's the right fit for you in your life right now. It's called Good in You.
But
Good in You.
If we've kind of got two different parts to our thing. It's like our mission, which I mean, essentially, like that's kind of the big goal, is that we become obsolete in what we're doing because people are just doing it themselves. So like, if we could just maybe encourage people to like try going there first in small, safe, measurable doses, where it's like, it's not overexposing, but like start running little tests and see if people are ready to meet you with your vulnerability. Like that has changed our life, and it's just been, the metrics are really good. Like a lot of people are there to support if you ask for a small amount of safe support for yourself. So like, yes, we would love to be followed and like the book and everything, like, but just please like go first and be there for someone else, and like be willing to let them be there for you. I think that would be our mission minded ask, I guess.
I love that. I love the work that you two are doing, and all the work that is still to come. I don't see you letting up off the gas anytime soon, as you shouldn't. You should just go while you have the momentum, go while you have the drive, go when you don't have the drive, and do it anyway, because there's people out there that need your message. There's people out here that need to hear from you, that can connect with you and relate to you. So regardless of what's happening, obviously we have to take care of ourselves first. But once we do that, once we pour into ourselves, I want you two to continue pouring into each other and pouring into your community.
I love that.
And
You're
thank you.
so sweet.
Yeah, like, love you. Like, thank you so much for holding this space for us to be vulnerable and safe with you, and to have these conversations that are difficult. I mean, especially suicide, racism. Like, I mean,
We went there.
We definitely went there today.
But like, you've made this very safe and caring, and I hope that it is good for you and your audience. Like, it has benefited me just internally. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. This is why I do this, to hold that space for people to share their stories, and we can connect as human beings. We're just human beings trying to have a greater human experience. And one of the best ways I know how to do that is through connection, through sharing of stories and collecting them and just sharing them with other people who need to hear the message. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I have one more question before I let you two go. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. What does resilience mean to you?
Resilience. May I have a definition? No, I
was like, if you need one, I got one.
Use that word in a sentence.
Do you have an answer for yourself?
To me, it's probably not going to be a very normal answer, but like, to me, it's having the support and the tools you need to handle what life throws at you. So I think I think a lot of times we think of resilience as like, oh, it's just this inner thing, like somehow you make it through whatever. And like, I need to challenge myself to see it more as like, who was in your life at the time? Like, who was there for you? Who like helped you at the grocery store? Who gave you that word of wisdom that you needed? Like, and I think the people that aren't resilient are the people that don't have that, like, the tools and the support structure to get through it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. Resilience is not linear. It's definitely...
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm like, that is solid, because like, yeah, you can be as resilient as the resources that you have.
That's right. That's right. It. Watch it. He just condensed the entire thing that I just said in one sentence.
I'd never. That was so a good thing. I've never thought about it. Like,
you're resilient as your resources.
That's really good.
For me, I think it's like lowering the bar, which is kind of a backwards answer, but for like losing the requirement of perfection and like being willing to accept a process and accept uncertainty and accept mistakes, and like it becomes a lot less scary when it's not like, man, you fucked up, you're never gonna make it. So it's like, oh yeah, you're learning. Like, okay, like the resilience is a lot easier to do when it's like, yeah, I ate that for sure. Like, that didn't go well. That's okay. We'll learn. I got 50 more years and we'll figure something out. And like, well, it's just one little bump in the road. So that's kind of like the internal and external balance on resilience in our perspective.
I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And both, and I asked that question at the end of all of my interviews, and I always get so many different answers. And it's beautiful the way people relate to resilience in their own life experiences. And collectively, what I always see, the one thing that I always can recognize and pick up on is resilience is always in action. Like, it's always a doing, whether it's reaching out to someone, or whether it's the bounce back, or whether it's the inner work, or whatever. It's always the doing that allows us to have that greater human experience.
What's really yours?
Good.
I think she said it, but
that is your that's your personal. I'm like, because I know you've been learning. I'm like, what is it in your life that is resilience? So
resilience to me is embracing the fall. Is learning that you're going to fall, you're going to make a mistake, you're going to say some fucked up shit, something's going to happen and you're going to stumble. But resilience is finding your footing, finding the resources, finding a way to recover from whatever it is that whatever that situation was, is finding a way to recover. I use the analogy of like a stunt person, a stunt man, a stunt woman. Yeah. And they've learned how to master the fall, right? When you see them, they're falling down the steps, and it's a stunt person, they're supposed to, right? We're supposed to fall. We're not meant not to fall.
All the way down. Yeah.
That's really good.
We're supposed to, you know, have these obstacles, and some of them are man-made, some of them are made in our heads, like I talked about the narrative, but mastering the fall so that when you get up the next time, you learn something from it. So whereas you know you're going to fall again, but it may not be because of that, it may be because of this, you know, it's just a different way to recover when things don't go your way.
I'm like an alliteration nerd, so I'm hearing a lot of R's. I'm like recover, resilience, the resilience of recovery, and I'm like, I'll chew on this for like a month. That's where I live. I love it, and the resilience. My entire life, our lives, the fact that we're even here and we're able to have this conversation is because of the resilience that we've been able to develop over time. Yeah. Thank you for developing yours.
Yeah.
Your hard work is appreciated.
Yeah. We're glad you're still here.
We're glad. Me and the wall. I'm actually glad that you two are still here and still with us, and you know, and raising your little boy and just being the best, knowing that being the best parents that you can be in the moment.
Yeah.
That's major. And now I feel absolutely comfortable knowing that you're raising a smart, intuitive, and intelligent, just human being. As great.
He's a cool person.
I can imagine. He's got some cool parents. So
nice.
Thank you two so much for spending some time with me today.
Thank you for having us. Seriously. I followed you on your conversations.
Thank you.
Yes, but
thank you. This has been a huge bright spot in or at least for my day, and I love connection. It is my shit. So thank you so much for going there first with us.
Of course.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to rate and review. And remember, resilience in action will always lead to a greater human experience.